I hope that it hasn't been too long since season 4, because, well, there I am. Season 5 is, without a doubt, the most hated season of Once More Time. In my opinion, it's not the worst, but I can understand why someone would think it is. It's certainly divisive, and I understand why it's more hated than season 4. It's definitely one fans wouldn't speak to. And most people say that it's got a lot of good ideas, it just doesn't execute them well. By the most hated season, I really just mean the most hated half season. Whereas the first half is talked about in the adult fandom a lot more than the second half. It's more of a disparate seasons 3 or 4. And that is because the first half is significantly worse than the second half. That's just popular opinion that I agree with. I just like this. I mean, yeah. I'm just like... So, this is going to be an interesting video, because Season 5 is a very interesting season. How did we get such good ideas so wrong? Such as, like, Swan Arc is first. This might be the last video in the series to be split up into 2 different parts, or it might not. I'm still not sure whether to split the final season video in 2. I don't know yet. So what do? Just continue on with the thing, that's all. So, Season 5 of Once Upon a Time. Yup. So, let's begin, as always, with a little bit of a recap. Rumpelstiltskin, the Dark One, died because the darkness was too much for him or something. And the darkness had nowhere to go, so it tried to take over someone, but it went over Emma instead. Meanwhile, Henry Mills became the author and gave up the power immediately after becoming one. And yeah. So, those are the only things from Season 4 we have to know about. The end of Season 4 anyway. And even the second thing is pushing it, as Henry becoming author doesn't really come up until the second half. But whatever, nothing else happened at the end of Season 4, nothing to note, at least. Nothing the show itself considers important. In some way, I'm glad to go over Season 4, but Season 5, well, it has a lot of potential. And becoming the Dark One is an idea which is pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot you can do with that. Like, are you going to have it be evil, have it be a mystery, or... I hope this leads to somewhere, and not some incredibly stupid place which makes zero sense, and a bunch of unnecessary and boring lore, which is just incredibly disappointing from such a good idea. Yeah, I really do hope not. So, Emma gets transported to the Enchanted Forest, leaving the dagger where it is. Everyone doesn't know where she is until Hook even tries to summon her, until, yeah, we find out she's gone to the Enchanted Forest. In the Enchanted Forest, she finds she finds Merida from Brave, and how they have and she has magic, and she wants to find Merlin so he can lead her to destroying the darkness. Yes, Merida from Brave is in this. We'll get to that when we talk about the characters. Okay? Not right now. Meanwhile, the Storybrooke gang decide to all go after the wand that they used. A wand which can open a portal, because lots of things can open portals now. This wand can only be someone who has a bridge between good and evil, but Regina can't use it. So they have to go and ask Zelina. You know, I forgot to mention she's something pretty serious in the last video. I don't want to go into any detail, but it's pretty bad. Now, they go to Zelina, and they hate Zelina. They ask her about, using the magic wand, but they can't because they don't trust her. So they just decide to try and find Emma another way, but Hook won't give up. Hook and Henry arrange a plan to break Zelina out of jail, but Zelina betrays them, as she does, and tries to go back to Oz. They manipulate her, and they travel to the Enchanted Forest to see Emma, who seems to give into the darkness as she's hearing voices in her head, or whatever these are, who tell her to give into her dark inclinations, which she does by almost crushing Merida's heart, as killing Merida will be the only way she can use the magic. But at the very last minute, everyone else comes in and stops Emma from doing so. Yay, the day is saved! So King Arthur, yes, King Arthur, leads them to Camelot. I mean, yes, he leads them, but then as soon as they've been led into Camelot, it cuts to Storybrooke. Apparently, everyone losing all their memories of the last 6 weeks, with Emma fully evil, and for the next 9 or so episodes, we uncover what happened over those 6 weeks to make everything like it is. Yeah. You heard this before? Yeah, this is an exact rip-off of 3B, with just 6 weeks instead of an entire year. Why? Well, they were uncreative and couldn't think of many ideas. They were running out of stuff. This is completely unnecessary, especially when a large chunk of it does take place in Camelot itself. Like, it's not even a competition. Some episodes almost never feature present day and are told almost entirely in flashbacks, with flashback in flashbacks. Particularly, 3 episodes follow this format. They take place almost entirely in flashback, aside from one scene at the beginning and/or one scene at the end, and they have flashbacks in the flashback, which serve as the main flashback sequences. Every other episode has flashback sequences to Camelot that day, aside from the finale, so compare this to 3B, which worked because, You didn't see it in every episode what happened in the Enchanted Forest, whereas it did a few Zelena moments. Now, the main villain here, I'm not going to spoil it because it's a bit of a twist. It's a stupid twist, but whatever. The main villain here, and no, it's not really Emma, only gets one episode to explain his backstory, and it doesn't do a good job at all. Zelena gets 2 episodes, both following on from each other, and both set where it is. And they're not flashbacks in flashbacks, talk about the Enchanted Forest, they're actual present day episodes. But all the present day episodes, because there are no flashbacks which talk about the characters aside from the finale, which focus on the premiere. It just looks like they're running out of ideas of flashback sequences and just put a bunch here, because this season could have easily just taken place, be like Frier, where it took place in Camelot, and then the ending, the last few episodes took place in Storybrooke. I guess you'll have to find some way to get Rumpel to Camelot, as obviously you can't have him as just hallucination because he's Rumpel. But that's the only thing I can think of which could be different. Just have everything that happened in Camelot with decent flashback sequences. Or maybe some episodes will not have flashback sequences. Because don't be scared to not have flashback sequences now. It's okay to violate the formula now and again. I usually talk about mostly present day. This season has so much flashback content that I kind of have to mention the Camelot segments, mention the flashbacks more than I usually do. Much more. Because the flashbacks are trying to reveal something to the audience, which, was supposed to uncover the secret as long as the characters, which I'll talk about soon. But just to say that this isn't played off that well, especially compared to the others. It's not like I hate entire flashback episodes. For example, the flashback episode of, which is entirely in flashback, it's an entire flashback. That flashback episode of Orphan Black is one of my favourite episodes of that particular show. But Once Upon a Time, especially how this works, it doesn't fully work here, and mostly because that episode of Orphan Black's story was good, and the story in here is usually complete garbage. Now, let's just continue because I did not intend for this camera shot to be this fucking long. So, we see Robin almost die, which doesn't really have that much of a purpose. But mostly it's about them investigating what Emma is doing. We see them finding King Arthur, and he's revealed to be a twist villain. He's one of the worst twist villains I've ever seen. But he doesn't really do anything in Storybrooke, so we won't really be talking about him that much until we get to the characters, where we will talk about most of the stuff. Now, let's keep going. So, a bunch of stuff happens. Okay, so Emma, or at least with the mystery of what she's doing, she's trying to pull Excalibur out of its stone, but obviously she's not a hero right now, she's a villain, so she has to get a hero. So she decides to turn Rumpel, a person who doesn't as a heart, as a hero, instead of getting a lot of people who are heroes. Maybe it says Rumpel having like a golden heart, like that's what happens, like because it's a blank slate, he's probably going to be the best hero, while everyone else is at least a bit morally grey. It's just weird, but the plan's just weird, strangely, especially of Merida there. Can't she at least try to ask Merida to do it? It's a bit strange. So, yeah. That's what happens. So they find out a lot of things, including while they try to get their memories back, they find out Emma stole the heart of Henry's girlfriend just to make a spell to get Merlin out. I may be being negative, that's because I was disappointed. When I first watched this, I was hooked on the mystery. I was hooked. I was really thinking, why is she doing this? Why is she doing that? Why is she so against Regina? Why is she fine with Hook? And like, why does she have nothing against anyone? It's just interesting, or rather they do it. I was hooked at the time. I was wondering what the hell was going to happen. I mean, I could have just looked it up, like I usually do, but decided to wait it out. But the actual answer I was obviously disappointed with, which is what we'll get to. So, Rumpel is now successfully a hero, trained by Merida after saving Belle, and pulls Excalibur from the stone. And we think we find out Emma's plan. That she wants to get all light magic out of existence. Or, apparently, that's what we're supposed to think. Now, I didn't believe this. I knew there was going to be another twist on it. But I was just wondering, I didn't think it would be that stupid. Either as a twist of why she does it or what she does it. The only person who doesn't really believe that this is what Emma is trying to do is Hook. Especially when, after saving his life, Emma tells him she's doing it for him. Now, Hook searches for a way to find and approaches Emma, Zelena, who got pregnant by the way. Emma poisons Zelena, sped up her pregnancy, so, well, they think that she can steal her baby, or at least they think that, but what she's actually trying to do is to steal Zelena, to sacrifice her, and she sped up her pregnancy just to make sure the baby didn't get hurt. She's going to destroy the darkness and put it all into Zelena. So, okay. Now this is bad, but it's not entirely bad until we see this. Apparently, the reason she didn't tell anyone is not because it was necessary, but because something happened. I mean, she wasn't the one that was sent there. She wasn't even the one who got the curse. Hook was. Because in Camelot, Hook was dying. Had a lethal something, and then almost died, with the only way for him to come back was to turn him into a Dark One. So that's what Emma did. She turned Hook into a Dark One And that's what he is. And apparently just losing his memory, losing his... because she erased everyone's memories, and apparently all this cast needed was the heart. Hook definitely didn't have enough time to gather any other ingredients. I mean, I'll make a new video on it because it make no sense soon, but it doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense. This is one of the most complained about moments in the entire show. Rightfully so. I mean, what the hell? Now, if you don't know what's wrong, understandable. But what makes little sense about this is, well, its own Dark One lore set up over the course of this season basically breaks this down entirely. The voices in their head or whatever, because they are undefined. Apparently, the voices in their head, which every Dark One thinks, and they live in all Dark Ones because that's the heart Hook uses. Because Nimue, Merlin's love, lived in all Dark Ones. Merlin's heart counts. It's really dumb and not really explained that well. It's also not really explained that well how Emma does this in the first place. Well, did this because Arthur did this, but how would it create another Dark One exactly? Would it exactly do that? Wouldn't it depend how they did the spell? Originally it was revealed that Nimue was already the Dark One before Merlin made the dagger. The dagger was made specifically to control her. If this is the case, why did Hook become the Dark One, I ask? What happened there? It's kind of understated, and not even disregarding the Dark One lore to make this happen. For example, why wasn't he hearing the voices? Was he sleeping? Because in the season it's saying that Dark Ones don't sleep. So what was he doing? Was he sleeping? The Dark One lore they set up makes no sense along with the thing. Maybe Hook was just in denial and that stopped it, but it's revealed to be powerful. And also, if Emma was destroying the darkness, how the hell did the voices in her own head not know her true plan, her true intentions? And not just there, this twist feels like they needed a twist, because Emma and Hook's relationship wasn't really a big part of the season until this. It was not. It was touched upon, but usually they were just being a casual couple. It was in the background. If the season played allusion to mostly Emma and Hook's relationship, gave them a lot of scenes together, but it only had that in the episode before and the episode in it. We didn't even get much have Hook looking for Emma more. We got a bit of that in the first episode, with him being the only one determined to find her, I guess. But have Emma, have a picture of Hook in the lair, which she keeps looking at, and we don't know what happens. Because it just comes out of nowhere. I mean, Captain Swan was okay in seasons 3 to 4, and I think it can make this work, but I don't think it can, because we don't fully see it, and I can't believe that we'll get this desperate. But we didn't set it up well enough to make it work. And Hook acts so terrible It's like in season 2 and season 3, Hulk was acting kind of creepy towards Emma. Now today's it kind of switched, and like Emma's the one more obsessed with Hulk than the other way around. It's kind of strange. I don't get it. This is one of the stupidest moments of the entire show, but it's not even the stupidest moment of the season. We will get there! We will get there! But now, let's just continue. So Hulk gets his memories back and wants something he's tried for centuries, to get Rumpelstiltskin's head and to get his revenge. He has a fight with him, but Rumpel wins the fight. But apparently this was set up. All Hulk needed was his blood to resurrect all the Dark Ones, so he can get his revenge by all the Dark Ones replacing Rumple, and this will finally kill Rumple. And what? This is just so forced. So they all get their memories back. Emma does it. Hulk has a last minute change of heart, because that, of course, that's how it ends. It mostly ends by Regina just telling him stuff because of the time he tested him, which doesn't really have that much time to take place, but go on then. I kind of like that flashback sequence. It does interesting backstory. Glad it doesn't get shown all over in the next season. So yeah, we think everything's fine until we find out that Gold tricked them and he's the Dark One again. Okay, and Emma found out straight away because the dagger called to her because she was a former Dark One. Okay. So, because Emma thought it was unfair, she decides to go to the Underworld to bring Hulk back to life by doing what Snow and Charming did. And that was Season 5A, also called the Camelot Arc, also called the Dog Swan Arc. It ended in spectacular fashion with something which makes absolutely no sense. If Excalibur is supposed to be the most powerful sword ever, why was it tricked with just a simple random spell? Because that's how it just had! Rumble just poured some magic thing on it and it just rah. So I don't even wear this t-shirt anymore. He clearly doesn't deserve it. But I'll give him this. It is terrible. Season 5A is terrible. And I can name 500 reasons more why, but let's just get on to every reason to do with the characters. Let's just do that right now, shall we? Yes, we have Emma. If you're wondering why I'm using this Dark Swan picture instead of my usual picture of Emma, well, because this is her main theme, it's treated like a big change for the character, so maybe I should do that. Also, I want to complain of how awful this is. I mean, is this really evil Emma? Like, a big costume change where she just dressed in all black, white curled up hair and speaks somewhat evilly. It's just so fake. It's just so fake. And yeah, Emma just doesn't make much sense this season. It seems like all 4 is gone from her. All sense of 4. I mean, I complained about her last season. She's a bit better in the second half, so it's not so... I still say she's better here, but she's still not great. Like, why do we... Like, 5B was about her trying to stop going to the darkness. So why are you doing that again? Okay, I know I said her becoming the Dark One was just interesting as like an inclination, how she could care about her family so much, and they do kind of do that. We do it in such a stupid, boring, and nonsensical way that I get zero enjoyment out of it. Then we have Regina, who, honestly, this is the half season where she has the least amount of purpose. I could call her the second main character, but the title really goes to Hook here. I mean, she holds the dagger, she pretends to be Emma. She doesn't really do much after the first 2 episodes, except complain to Zelina and complain about Emma. She's still snarky and she's still kind of fun. There's nothing really more to say. Yeah. Snow and Charming do even less, other than worry about Emma. It's 4A again. The show doesn't do anything right. Okay, they kind of get something with Arthur, but that's over in a flash, so it doesn't really matter. I don't mind. The show's been terrible at writing them for a while now, so I don't really fully see the issue that much. But compared to season 4, they're not even near as bad as they were there. At least they're not totally unlikable and act all evil now, so I'm not going to complain that much, just this. They give Henry a girlfriend because they couldn't think of what else to do with him. I actually kind of like Henry's role this season. I like how he teams up with Emma. It's way better than his role. I like how he's the only one that believes in her, and then he's one who believes the least in her, and how he teams up with her in the end. It's really good. Honestly, Henry's best main character this season, for sure, in my opinion at least. This is the weirdest betrayal of Rumpel. Apparently Rumpel was so heartbroken with Belle that he just decided to get the darkness back because he's so addicted to it. And he's so addicted to power. But I thought this arc was about him growing out of that and growing to be a hero again. But no, they had to set everything back to the status quo with him being the Dark One again. It's just boring and uncreative, especially because Hera Rumpel isn't explored enough. And that's just because they can't think of anything more to do with his character. Especially when he became a hero in season 3. Yet, in the second half, he's awful. He's back to being evil again. Although, he's still not as bad as season 4. But I will get to the second half when I get to the second half. Long story short, I don't like Gold here. Of course, there's Hook. We won't really go into detail. His character's just so broken this season. He doesn't really get any interesting things before his turn to evil. Again, it isn't built up enough for us to really feel, if we really saw how much he has changed and how big a regression for him. Because we don't! I like Colin O'Donoghue, but honestly, he isn't good at playing this dark, evil version. Doesn't seem like he's enjoying it. I like him as Hook in general, but as like an evil, maniacal, pure evil, like this version of Killian Jones, I just don't like it at all. just doesn't work. This is one of the worst betrayals of Belle I've ever fucking seen. And if you've watched the other videos in this series, you know I already don't always like Belle and what they do with her. But she just is. But this is one of the most obvious points to their character, of how her entire character just revolves around Rumple. She doesn't interact with anyone else. Here she's just a plot device to further Rumple's story. That is all she is. I guess she has a few of her book smarts in Camelot, and I like the episode with Merida. That's it, really. She just seems like this random girl who Rumple loves. She's just there to be Rumple's love interest the vast majority of the time. That is it! She gets one focus episode, but was more of a Merida episode anyway. We have Robin, who is finally main character and who is boring as hell. And does nothing other than almost die the second episode and look after Zelina's child. Moving on. Okay, so Zelina. Hard character to talk about. She does a lot of stuff. I don't specifically like her here. She flip-flops. She's played magnificently by Rebecca Mader, but she's just a generic evil villain, and who just keeps teaming up with the other villain she sees, because she's just like a secondary villain this season, and she's not that fun because she's no longer the main villain. Gone are the days of season 3 where she was a big threat, because again she just plays henchwoman to Arthur and later Dark Hook. So it's not really enjoyable. Oh, and I do want to mention this. Content warning. We're going to touch a little bit on rape. Now, most people agree, well, not most people, is pretty explicit in the show what she does to Robin. Of how she just pretends to be Marion to get and to get so it's rape, isn't it? Like, Robin did not consent. In his own words, he was a very unwilling participant. Does the show know what that means? Now, I also didn't talk about the rape attempt in season 1, which is often critique, which is Regina and Graham. That was purposeful. I intentionally missed it out because I wanted to talk about it later in a later video. And I might also talk about it here, but here it's much less ambiguous. I mean, everyone agrees. Graham! Well, yeah, it's pretty firmly rape. You can make the argument of how... I don't think you can make the argument here, but I do think it is really bad in both cases, but the show didn't treat this as such. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say, really. I just wanted to know that, yeah, it was a mistake not mentioning it. I don't know how I forgot about this very important element. I planned to talk about it, but I genuinely forgot, and then I posted the video. But I wanted to touch on it here because it's an important moment. But so, all in all, the main characters aren't handled that terribly. But the secondary characters narrowly introduced are the worst part. And let's just start with honestly my least favorite villain in the entire show. No exaggeration. That's next up. King Arthur. Now, in my season 2 video, I said that I didn't think Greg and Tamara were the worst villains on the show, although they do come close. This is because this guy is the worst villain on the show. You might think, who is King Arthur? unlike for other villains, you only mentioned him once in your review. That's because it wasn't enough for Emma or Darkhawk to just be the villain, so we had to add an extra threat in there just to be clear, and he is awful. He gets one backstory episode where we learn a lot about him, but after the episode he kind of disappears from the plot, so it doesn't really... So Arthur is, well, a traditionally heroic character who is turned into an evil villain, which they have already done before with Peter Pan, but we do it again here because it worked so good the first time, it must work so good a second time. Why is this season steals so much from season 3? But no, for one, they kind of play it off as a twist. Because at the end of episode 3, it reveals that this guy's a baddie. But he's the worst twist villain because it's so obvious that he's not to be trusted because of all this shit with his questions on the dog one, his interactions with the group, why he's acting so incessant. It's so obvious, and his magic with Guinevere? I have no fucking clue what to say. Is that a love potion? I'm confused. Is that potion... And again, it's short-term conflict. You can literally... He's made to feel conflict in the Camelot, to be the main villain of the Camelot segments. Once we get to Storybook, he does nothing. There's this part where he says he's gonna make Storybook the new Camelot. Well, that's never fucking brought up again! It's just Peter Pan said it, so his Peter Pan copy will say it too. It doesn't help that the actor isn't very good either. And everything about King Arthur just sucks, okay? Now let's talk about a character I really like. Merida! Now, you might ask, Merida from Brave? Why the hell is she in this? Well, I do think she's one of the show's weirdest inclusions. I don't think this is the bizarre event some people think it is. Brave was a very successful movie at the time. It won a fucking Oscar. Well, yes, today it's not considered very well. Back then, well, I guess this was when all the hype died down. This was like a few years later. Should have put her in earlier, maybe. But the way they do it is fine and better than how they integrate Anna and Elsa in, because they tie up her backstory really well, giving her backstory with already established characters like Mulan, which was a big twist, although I'm not still not exactly sure what that happened. Something I didn't talk about was the timeline issues of season 5, which are a whole nother beast. But anyway, don't want to get into all that now, it's irrelevant. This Merida, I haven't seen the movie in a while. I don't know if Merida still has the same protagonist problems as like everyone says. But this Merida is fantastic. We really learn a lot of our struggles in the few episodes we get. And she's integral to the plot as well, in which I like how much she hates Emma, of how we see someone Emma hurt in this world. If they actually committed to Emma being evil, she would be even more effective. But we've got what we've got. Someone hurt. Someone staying power. There's not, like Frozen, they kind of do a sequel to Brave, but unlike Frozen, they don't make it all about it, so it works. It's just Merida's backstory is a sequel to Brave, with the Merida now being Brave 3, I guess. I guess. And I like it. I like how she lost her father, and I like her talk with him. I like her episode, which completely interrupts the main plot, and is the best episode of the half season. I really love this episode. I love her dynamic with Mulan and Ruby, two characters they brought back because everyone was asking what the hell happened to them. And as I said, they still don't really explain why Mulan didn't actually join Ramen, but I love it nevertheless. Merida is one of the best things about this half season. One more character I want to talk about here, Merlin, who only appears in flashbacks. I don't really talk about characters that only appear in flashbacks, but again, these aren't really flashbacks, because again, there's entire episodes. He gets his own episode where he gets a flashback, and it's the main issue of Dark One Law. This is a very interesting portrayal of Merlin. It was something which, if this was in a mainstream work, the right authors will call it incredibly woke, despite Merlin being a character in mythology. I don't know what to tell you. I kind of like him, to be fair. I kind of like his backstory with, like, his wife turning into the Dark One. I don't really see his plan, though. His powers are... apparently he can just do anything. It's a little strange. His relationship with Nimue isn't really that well developed either. They kind of just pretend they're a good couple and just skip right to the part where they try and live together. Which is... It still works enough. So... And I still don't fully get how he was in that tree and still communicated. I mean, couldn't he have got himself out of that tree if stuff like... if he could transport, like, lots of places... It's kind of undefined, but... I don't mind him. He's not that bad a character. He's way better than the guy he trained, to be sure. So about these characters' endings, Merida doesn't really get one for some reason, even though she was very prominent in the first half. In the second half, just goes a goodbye. King Arthur, we'll talk about that later in the video. Merlin dies in a really stupid way, and now this video has already gone too fucking long, you think? So, get ready for Season 5B, aka the Underworld Arc, which you're not going to hear me rant as much, because I think this is a lot better than the first half. But it does feature by far the worst moment in the entirety of Once Upon a Time. That is not an exaggeration. I promise you. Let's go. So, Emma and the gang are off to the Underworld, but before they can go to the Underworld, Emma has a dream where she gets visited by Neil telling her not to go to the Underworld. But it's too late, as when she wakes up, she's already there. Why the hell didn't Neil wake her up then? I have one question for because of the elephant in the room after this picture. But why is Henry there? Why did they bring Henry? Don't tell me that Regina would have brought Henry and just let him stay with someone. Because, well, why would they take Henry to the Underworld? That is, I know Henry would have insisted to go, but like, and Emma might have accepted, but Regina wouldn't. So they go to the Underworld, which, as they can see, looks exactly like Storybrooke, but just a little gloomy. Yup! I hate to pause this so quickly, but honestly, this is dumb. Okay, so yes, the Underworld looks exactly like their main setting of the show. Why is that so bad, you ask? Well, how uncreative is it? This might have been done for budgetary reasons, like they had to use their own sets, which is probably the reason why they didn't set the entirety of season 1 in Camelot. Or maybe they just couldn't think of a way for Underworld to look like. But it's still really lame, you know? I mean, it's just a pointless way of doing things. I mean, what is up? And the explanation later down the line for it looking like Storybrooke is incredibly weak. And while there was a bit of criticism that how did Regina fit 5 kingdoms into a small town? Well, this is on a much larger scale. How is Hades fitting this many dead people who have unfinished business and don't get to finish it because he ain't letting them? How is he not? How are they doing that? How is he fitting them all into this one town? And they could easily think of like gloomy versions of it, but they want to have fun with this like gloomy, like dark version of Storybrooke, and I guess they do somewhat interesting things with it, but it doesn't really matter. It's still uncreative and just speaks of like an Elseworld Storybrooke instead of just, well, or as people call it, Underbrooke. But I'm calling it the Underworld, okay? So, how does... like, this is completely unbelievable. Like, it's not like this has always been the case, as we'll get to later. Let's just get back to recapping. As soon as they arrive in the Underworld, Cora, who is the mayor in the literal mayor's office, tries to make Regina to go because apparently she's worried about her, because Cora definitely cares about Regina. That's definitely been established before. And by doing this, she tries to send Regina's father into the River of Souls, which is like the worst place. Like, the Underworld isn't hell, it's kind of like the middle place in between heaven and hell. And our version of hell is the River of Souls, which is just like a river of lost souls. And like, you're all lost and you like fall down there. And like, heaven is... well, it's never really explained what heaven is. It's just a vague somewhere where you belong. I don't know. This Underworld lore is just as bad as the Dark One lore from the first half. But whatever. So, with that, they obviously refuse. Regina obviously refuses, and thus is ready to kill. And thus Cora is ready to send Henry to to the worst place. River of Lost Souls, whatever. That place. But instead, he goes to heaven as he's finished his unfinished business. Okay. Do you always need living people to finish your unfinished business? If so, why are they even down in the underworld? Shouldn't they need to be ghosts in the real world? Trying to finish their unfinished business. Oh wait, this show stopped caring about making sense after season 3. I apologize. Now, the next thing that happens is Hades is revealed as the one who tricked Korra into doing this, even though it's something Korra would definitely do herself. And in punishment for it not actually working, he makes Korra his slave, basically. And then it turns out he is holding Hook captive, and therefore the gang have to save him. But before all that, we have a detour with Hercules, who, despite it being about Hades, is only in one episode of his season, which could be easily skipped if you ignore all the subplot stuff with Hook. The real episode to talk about is Devil's Due, which is my favourite episode of season 5, where Hook finds Mila, the wife, who no one liked, and, well, makes her help with them finding Hook. But then he's forced to throw her into the River of Souls because of Hades' threat. Hades then threatens Rumple himself when Rumple is about to leave because, well, they completed their mission and found Hook. The thing is, they now can't leave Storybrooke because Hades tried to get Hook to write down the names of people on the graves, so they didn't. So he did write the names. So Hades wrote the names instead, and therefore Emma, Regina, and Snow, who's changed her name back, I guess, even though there was nothing different, are now functionally dead, trapped in this world forever. Yeah. So, Devil's Due. Good episode. Won't have that again this season. Devil's Due is really good because I think it's a great exploration of Rumple's character and what he does. I think it ends greatly with him having to make a deal with Hades that because, well, years ago, a man he made a deal with, he had to give up his second-born child to save his first-born child. Now, since Bella's pregnant, he's gonna have one, so he has to give it up because, well, it's in the underworld, even though he killed that man. It's a very interesting exploration of the character, and I like the whole feel of it all. It's really nice. Service doesn't continue. So after that whole deal and a weird episode with Hook's brother, which doesn't really amount to anything, we get the reveal that Hades is doing everything because he's in love with Zelena. Since their main mission now is to defeat Hades so we can get their names off their grave, they have to use this as Hades forces Rumple to bring Zelena's child to Storybrooke. This is apparently to protect her. But he accidentally brings Zelina and Belle off to the Underworld with them. Obviously, this does not go especially well. I mean, why would it? So Belle quickly finds out Rumple's the Dark One again. She works it out very quickly and doesn't accept it, especially when Rumple has to tell Belle about the deal. Exactly. Why would he be accepting? Why would she be accepting? Rumple even though he tries to convince Belle to go along with it. With Zelina, though, Hades tries to get her on her side. And they try to take advantage of all this. Of everything. Zelina gives Belle a sleeping curse so they can protect Hades after a big fight with Rumple and how they realize that stalling isn't going to work. Rumple takes offense to this, however, even though it's a good idea. So he can't wake Belle up. So he's going to so he might try another way. I don't know what to say. Now, let's just see this here. Rumple is an idiot this season, sometimes. And it's a good idea, who knows. But now we have to get on to what I was saying before. The worst moment of the entire show. Zelina is starting to fall into Hades' trap. And she says she can make Hades a better person, even though Zelina's still never been portrayed as a great person herself. Like, it's not like she's went for a whole redemption arc or something. And then Regina decides to help Cora and save her from being a slave to Hades. Just to Thor, which as an idea isn't terrible on paper. It's understandable, and helping her build bridges with Cora, even though Cora's the worst mother, kind of makes sense. Obviously, Cora isn't going to fall through on that, but who knows. While this is going on, we see flashbacks of Regina and Zelina as children meeting each other. And apparently, Cora erased their memories of their event because she thinks all love, even sisterly love, is weakness. In the episode, Cora realizes her entire ideology was completely wrong and how she is such an awful mother. And because of that one random moment of reconciliation with her kids, nothing else matters. And because of that one moment, she fucking gets sent to heaven. Okay, the place where she belongs, whatever. What? Okay, let's break this down. So Cora, who has committed genocide on multiple occasions, was the maniacal queen of someplace who knows how long, tortured one daughter with neglect, gave one daughter up, which was no fault of her own. She was forced to do that. But then again, what happened with her, what we saw in this episode later. But to the daughter she kept, she was incredibly neglectful of, and kind of treated her like a younger version of herself, or like she wanted to be a young version of herself. And basically caused her turn into being the evil queen. I mean, seriously. And she gets to go to heaven. Why? Because she apologized out of fucking nowhere. This reconciliation, I completely forgot how out of nowhere it fucking was. It's just a random stick of a heart, her saying she regrets giving Zelina up, and her apologizing to both of them for being a terrible mother. But it doesn't sound genuine. It doesn't. It doesn't sound genuine at all. You can argue, well, maybe she's gone soft because, like, her heart's back in her. But her heart being back in her is never mentioned! Never! What? Why is this a thing? This is a really stupid thing. I've never seen a single person defend this decision. Everyone I've seen thinks this is terrible. But you might say, yes, this is terrible, but why is it the worst moment in the entire show? Letting someone like Korra get away with everything, and not just get away with everything, get rewarded for everything, and trying to make us think that it's right. Seriously. I genuinely think this is the worst moment. Worse than anything we've seen before, and worse than anything we'll see later. No exceptions. Worse than all of season 4. Like, you know when we say the ending ruins an episode and people just go, hey, the ending's still there, the rest of the episode's still there. No, here, for sure, it cheapens it all. And just knowing that this woman is going to get rewarded for every awful thing she did, that just puts a bad taste in my mouth. I do think they actually got some flack for this, because Korra never appears in the show again. She is she is only mentioned once that I can remember, in which Regina mentions that she was a neglectful and horrible mother. This was in the spin-off, by the way, the Hyperion Heights spin-off. But in it, Regina acts like that never happened and she was still the neglectful and horrible mother she always was and she always will be. Like the emotional reconciliation and her going to heaven never happened. And again, Korra never appears again after this, not in flashback. Well, like, a lot of other characters here do. Regina's father makes a flashback appearance in season 6. Pan even appears again, sort of, in a flashback in season 6. You know? So it's not like this season is completely devoid of it. Void of, like, characters reappearing. I mean, I like some of it. I liked seeing Regina's father finally in present day. He's an interesting character, but now he has to deal with Korra, who was clearly not kind to him and was like a loveless marriage, and sometimes implied to be abusive. Although it was a marriage of convenience anyway. Arranged marriage. who even knows what to say anymore. But I don't know. Maybe Korra can change. Who knows? But you don't get heaven after just this emotional reconciliation. I guess. Well, fear not! Because there are a bunch of headcanons. You can try to make sure that this doesn't exist. Number one! Korra didn't actually go to heaven. It was an illusion by her and with what she wanted to believe. What really happened was Regina and Zelena pushed her into the River of Souls before she could go anywhere. Number two, Korra went to a place where she belonged, which, while it wasn't the River of Lost Souls, it wasn't a nice place. Number three, she just got into the place she belongs is the River of Lost Souls. She just, it's just an illusion again. Now, these explanations might be satisfying to some, but to me, the intent matters, and the intent here was we were supposed to think that Korra deserves heaven. And what's stupid is not every character in Once Upon a Time gets redemption. And Korra is apparently deserves redemption, but never gets it. I mean, but does get Korra apparently deserves redemption, but other characters never get it. Like Hades, spoilers, that's one of the main focal points of this season. People don't change that fast. Hades can't change that fast. So it's contradicting itself. Hell, in the next episode, another long-serving villain, Pan, gets put into the River of Lost Souls, and we aren't meant to feel sympathy for him because he can't change. We aren't. All in all, worst decisions show ever made, and I don't think they can never make up for it, even if they retcon it completely. So Regina and Zelena are now total besties. Why? Because they remembered a random event when they were kids, and that destroyed any feelings of resentment they had, even though especially Zelena hating Regina was for the case on so many occasions. But they're friends now, and that's all that matters. Now, Rumpel captures Zelena and makes Pan hurt her because he can't, because of the stupid contract twist from last season. So they capture Zelena, and so as leverage for Hades, so Hades can rip up the deal, and Hades has to turn up with the heroes for this, as he makes a deal to take all the names off the graves and they can all go home. But when they try and separate the hearts for Emma and Hawk, it doesn't work. It turns out that it only worked for David because he'd only been dead for less than a minute and his soul hadn't left its body yet. This I actually quite like. It makes sense of the universe and it makes sense in general for why it would work once and not another. So, Emma and Hawk get there. So Emma and Hawk try to find another way to get out, but Hades just stalls them, as he doesn't want them to get back to Storybrooke. He's just fooling them. Zelena doesn't want to believe it and pushes everyone out once they do get back to Storybrooke. And they all want revenge on Hades. So Regina gets there, and oh, you remember Robin? Yes, Regina's boyfriend, who I haven't mentioned once in this section before. Yeah, he dies. He dies of the crystal, which is the only thing that can kill Hades. And yeah. This is the episode where he probably does the most. And it's the episode where he dies. Hades is then swiftly defeated when Zelena has to choose whether to kill him or Regina, and she chooses to kill Hades. Okay, so now the main villain is dead, and at the end, Hulk goes to where he belongs, which is apparently being brought back to life. So that was the plot of Season 5B of Once Upon a Time. Now let's get into... Wait. This isn't the end of the season? There's still 2 more episodes left? Okay, I know not everything, sort of like Belle still has to wake up and all that, but the main villain is dead. They had a last minute death. The main conflict, which is saving Hulk, that's solved. What is there left to do in 2 whole episodes? Wait, what's that? What? No, good joke. Good one. You're serious? What? Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned it, and I can't be bothered to go back and check, but in Season 2, in the episode which was like the aftermath of Cora's death, they had a subplot about Henry attempting to destroy magic because of recent events. I don't think I talked about this, because again, it was just a subplot, it was just a minor thing, and it was just a thing to get the episode to have a little extra conflict. It wasn't much, and it was completely in character. Yeah, Henry's a true believer, but he doesn't know much at this point, so it's completely understandable. Okay, why is all of this relevant? Because this random subplot from 3 seasons ago is the main conflict of this finale. This 2-part finale. This is the main conflict. Why? So, Let's just go. Gold, attempting to do anything to wake Belle up, makes a crystal which contains all of the magic that exists in Storybook, and therefore all of the magic that exists in this world. Now, so Henry takes it to New York because apparently his father was on a mission to destroy magic, and he might have some stuff there. Hold it! What? I mean, he was as a fiance with a psycho whose main mission was trying to destroy magic herself. You saying that Neil was trying to destroy magic? That's an unnecessary change! And that he only told Henry about this. Why would he only tell Henry about it? When would he do that even? Was there enough time for him to randomly tell Henry something in Storybook in season 2? Because he couldn't have told him any other time! I mean, why would he do that? Just because, especially when, the first time he destroyed magic, did he tell Henry then? This just doesn't make any sense. It's just a dumb retcon. So, Emma and Regina start chasing Henry, who has the crystal, and Gold goes after them and tries to get there before them, as he wants the crystal too, and he's willing to do anything to get it. And so yeah, that's it. So that's the main crux of the 2 episodes, a race to find Henry. Also, but there's this subplot which is basically just there to set up season 6, connects to the main plot later, where the other main characters find themselves trapped in a prison in a mystical land by who is revealed to be Mr. Hyde, with Dr. Jekyll trying to help them get out. The reveal is really smart, and I really do like it. I know a lot of people don't like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story, but I at least like the beginning of it. The ending is just... Now, here's when it gets really fucking stupid. So the gang find Henry. Henry pretends he didn't find anything when he actually did. He found the cup, which was apparently the source of all... The cup Merlin drank, which is apparently the source of all magic. And he thinks he can use that to try and destroy magic. And he tries to do so. Just as the others find out where Jekyll and Hyde... Just as Emma and Regina find out where the others all are. And Belle got transported there too because Hyde has some beef with Rumpel. And then... So... They try and get magic back. Gold takes them to the only person who might still have magic in this world, which is the dragon, who died in a flashback. A random guy who only appeared in one flashback before this and died in that flashback. He is in the present day, and just don't question it. Don't question it. But he's there, and they ask him to do the unthinkable. And then he gets... then he gets... like, seriously. Then they decide to get up by, like, small things that, like... the wish pulls it off in different ways. As like when Henry made a wish, he says, "I wish the family would be complete," and then Hook turned up a few days later, next to the fountain at New York. But when all the coins fall into the fountain actually made wishes and still ways. So everyone wished that. So Emma, Regina, and Henry wish for a portal to the land, and I guess Gold does too, but the other way, and like everyone else, and like Henry does a crowd and like convinces everyone else to do the same, and then the portal comes out, everybody claps, thinking this is all a show. You guys have seen the fountain before? Don't you wonder how they pull this off? Like, and whether they get town property? Won't these just get, like, arrested for damaging property just to, like, do their show? This doesn't make any sense! Calm down, Patrick. Calm down. So, before they get back to Storybrooke, throughout these 2 episodes, Regina has been struggling with her evil side because of what happens with Robin. And her evil queen inclinations have been coming out more. But they decide to find a way to fix it. The scissors can split Regina up, so the evil queen is no longer a part of her. So that's what they do. The evil queen is now a separate being, not inside Regina. Just like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then Regina kills the evil queen, or appears to. Now we then cut to Storybrooke, where they all get back, and it turns out Hyde has made a deal with Rumple for some information on how to wake Belle. This deal entitles Hyde getting Storybrooke. And then we see that the evil queen personality actually didn't get killed, as I assume, since it's another personality, it can't be killed by that personality. Or, as we later find out, you can only kill that personality if you kill the original as well, which I really do like. We don't know that yet though, so it's kind of spoilers for Season 6, but whatever. This is basically Season 6 now anyway. And then she takes the dragon's heart. And then the season is finally over. So, that was the end of Season 5. I'm not lying anymore. That was actually the end of the season. Let's just talk about these last 2 episodes for a bit. They were terrible. These last 2 episodes of the season, or at least of the arc, feel very disconnected. They feel like they're part of a very different season, as none of the main conflicts appear or even mention that much. Roman's death is the main sticking point, but this could easily be the premiere to Season 6. A lot of it, especially the Jekyll and Hyde subplot, was just to set up Season 6. We not only had 1 full episode to drag us out, they had 2. It just didn't work at all. And Season 5 obviously didn't work at all, but we'll get to that, obviously, after we talk about the characters. The video is already too long, it's about to get even longer. First of all, let's start with Regina, who, again, very big season for her. Regina has a common theme over these past few of not doing that much in the first half, but basically being the main character of the second half. In a lot of cases, it's arguable whether she or Emma is the main character in the second halves. This isn't an exception. It's not like Regina did nothing in the first half. She was the main catalyst for the whole thing. But here she gets a big arc about finding herself and all that. She is interesting, but honestly I liked her better in 5A. Her emotional reconciliation with Cora is probably the main reason for this, and her reconciliation with Zelena. They were both forced, and she suddenly thinks the best of Zelena, even though she just ate her a minute ago just because she remembered one random thing from her past. I don't think it works that well, and it dampens it. It doesn't really dampen the moment of M where she splits herself off, but we still have a while to go. So, let's just do this. Emma. I don't really feel like she does that much this season, honestly. It's not like she's just pining for Hawk and that's it. I don't get it. I'm not interested in her. I'm guessing she got the big spotlight in 5A where she was such an awful character that they just decided to just do that. I bet you're enjoying seeing my usual picture and not the terrible one I did for the first half. Not much to say otherwise. Gold this season is essential and is actually better than I thought, to be honest. Sure, that they kind of make him the dark. They do make him the dark one again, but he got handled not having the power. I guess it's a character, although I still don't really like it that much. It's still kind of disappointing they did this, and I would have liked to see a different direction with the character. But in general, I do think it's okay here. Belle is, well, I do think it's okay here. His relationship with Belle is, well, he treats her terribly, and his motivation is to keep her is not that dumb, especially because sleeping Cass is kind of a good idea, actually. But, yeah. And the main conflict, it's kind of away from the main plot and only connects to it later. So, it's not the greatest, but I don't mind him this season. Snow and Charming do a lot more this season than they have done in any other. In the first half, not in any other. I like, even though it's kind of forced and I hate it eventually, I kind of like Snow's turn to being okay with being called Snow, even though I've been calling her Snow throughout this entire time, not Mary Margaret, because Mary Margaret is stupid. It does not roll up the tongue. So, it doesn't really affect me because I already say Snow, and it doesn't really affect the show other than everyone just calling her Snow now instead of Mary Margaret. Which is just, everyone was probably just getting sick of saying Mary Margaret, so that's probably why we did that episode anyway. That episode was disappointing, but it was good. I also liked David's interactions with his brother. That was pretty interesting. And I kind of like her corresponding with Regina and Zelena. Although, I think that episode should have been called Brothers and Sisters, just to make the comparison better. and like it's talking about both plots in that episode, both things going on. That would have been better. That would have been good. I like their relationship this half season. It's pretty nice. Hawk is kind of a MacGuffin for this season. He doesn't do much other than walk about. He has his own focus episode with his brother as well, even though that one is super boring and just isn't interesting. So I kind of like his character better than in 5A, but their relationship with Emma is just so boring now, and obviously kind of toxic. So I kind of weirded out about this. So that's Hook. He's a weird character this season for sure. No idea why Henry is even in most of this season, as for Watsonian reason. He has a lot to do in general, although I don't know why they brought him along. The author story is it makes me just question, why did we even have this? Because if the pen can work without the author directly writing it, why does it need an author at all? Why isn't the pen just doing it all itself? It doesn't make that much sense, but whatever. I touched about this on a bit. I also don't like his motivation at the end of last season. It's the exact same one as season 2. And yet we don't even call back to season 2 of a time where Henry destroyed magic before. Henry has learned a lot more about it. So he should know that this, and it just comes out of nowhere. He was just a kid in season 2. I know he's still just a kid now, but he's seen a lot. Him acting irrational here, it doesn't make sense, especially as what they had. If they were building it up, they should have done a better job, because maybe it's just making fun with Cruella, but no, it was fun. I don't get it. I don't get Harry. Take me back to 5A on the subject. Another character that did better in 5A, and I didn't even like her that much there anyway, is Zelena. Zelena is weird this season. She doesn't appear or is mentioned for the first 4 episodes of the season, and then becomes part of the main conflict out of nowhere, being like the reason why a lot of this is happening. Wait! I don't get you. I don't get this character. She wants to make Hades a better person, even though she's a rapist and a serial killer and she takes pride in that, and it was random. And then she just, again, redeems herself because she remembered one memory from her childhood. Her relationship with Hades is bland at best, and is one of the most toxic, and is very, very toxic. There's no chemistry between them, probably because they're both supposed to be evil characters, and it's just strange of how Zelena's motivations completely changed, because Zelena from even just 5A would have been happy with everything that Hades is doing. She would have been happy with killing everyone else and ruling over Storybrooke. But it just came out of nowhere, had random stuff of redemption. Yup. I actually think Belle appeared better and did better, was better handled here than in the first half. Even though she only really appears in 3 episodes. In the first episode, she appears in a 1-scene flashback. She doesn't appear in the second episode at all, but neither does Rumpel, so fine enough. That's who her entire character revolves around. Third episode, she only appears inside a snow globe. Fourth episode, she's not on the main adventure. They did this again with Neverland in season 3, where we had to be a hallucination the whole time, but she just gets sucked into the adventure later, once it gets going, but only then appears for 3 episodes. Because then she puts herself in a sleeper curse. The reason I think she's done better here is because I really like her focus episode. You learn a lot about her character. I like when flashbacks with Belle, where we learn about her life outside of Rumpel. Season 2's one was pretty good. Season 4, well, probably my favourite season 4A episode, to be honest. And here, yeah, I like how they handle it. With here, History of Gaston. I like the twist, I like with the ogres. I pretty much really like it. But while I'm disappointed that they send it, I do know that Emily D. Ravin had to go on maternity leave, so she couldn't be there for the whole season. So, it's understandable, I guess, what happened. Now, our final character! I've saved him till last for a reason. Robin! This character, I forgot he was even in it multiple times! And this is the character who's supposed to be killed off. Yet, he just does absolutely nothing before it happens. It's just a complete example of fridging, you know, because it's only killed off for Regina's stuff. Nothing else! Robin does nothing until he dies. His death is the only thing he does. Nothing else. He does more in 5A, where he also almost dies. If you almost die, you're probably gonna die soon in Awat. It happened to Neil after all. Okay. Now it's time for our secondary characters. First of all, we start with our main villain, Hades. Now, Hades is just the worst. He's better than Arthur at least, but he's still a pretty bad villain. He's pretty dull. I don't like his infatuation with Zelina. Just comes out of nowhere and is just stupid. His rivalry with Rumpel should have had a reason. His whole ordeal is just dumb. And he just tortures the heroes just because, like, Zeus stopped his heart, but why? Because he did something really bad? That is a horrible punishment, you know. That's a horrible punishment. Let's Levi's true love, which he did, yada yada yada. I don't like how, like, everyone can change but him, even Korra, well, yes, Hades tortures people for who knows how many years. So, I guess he's probably worse than Korra, although we see Korra worse. But him being the one to change? No. I don't like the double standard, and I don't like this character in general or what they do with him. Hades is legitimately the only Once Upon a Time character where I prefer the Descendants version. Now let's talk about a few characters we see down in the Underworld. First of all, the Blind Witch. Now, the Blind Witch only appeared once before, back in Season 1, in a flashback, where she was killed by Hansel and Gretel. It's the witch from Hansel and Gretel. I guess that episode wasn't complete filler then. The Blind Witch is the main owner of Granny's here and one of the most common figures. The other figures they meet in Underworld, one of the most recurring characters this season. The other, I would say, is Cruella. Although I don't want to really talk about her here because everything I said about her in Season 4 kind of applies here, so I don't think I need to talk about her again. But I think the Blind Witch is interesting because I like her this season, half season. I like her in the Underworld and how she served and all that, and I like how she interacts with her heroes, like how she calls them and how she gives tips and all that. It's pretty interesting. I like it. I like her. And I'm surprised. We have Hercules, who doesn't do much. He's Snow's teenage boyfriend, which barely gets anything across, and who inspires Snow to be Snow again after Snow inspires Hercules to be brave again, because he wasn't brave because the monster he was supposed to fight killed him and all that crap. When Hercules went to heaven, because why the hell not end that way? It's just a mess. I don't like it, and honestly, I could just stomach more situations to this, shouldn't I? Finally, the last character I want to talk about here is Violet. Mostly because the last two episodes were very disconnected, and Violet, well, she only appeared in the last three, but I just want to talk about her because she's Henry's blind girlfriend who also does nothing. Now, I wanted to talk about, and she's a little kind of her subplot about like the reveal that her dad is actually from the Land Without Magic doesn't make any sense. How did he get there? What? But sweet, I guess. Henry and her are sweet, I guess. It's nothing too great, though, of a thing. Oh! And I guess I'll touch on Ruby, and because she got her ending this season with Dorothy, which came out of nowhere and didn't really have much to do with the rest of the season, but it was set up earlier in the Bear King. And I don't like this because Ruby and Dorothy's relationship was barely developed at all. I don't like it as much as everyone else's. She kind of had chemistry with Mulan, so I wouldn't mind if that was the thing instead. They chose Dorothy even though she's a nothing character again, and she looks completely different than her season 3 version. I don't like this, but there we go, I guess. So, that was season 5 of Once Upon a Time, and it was pretty bad. It was an improvement over season 4, in my opinion. I completely get if you think that this season is worse than season 4 and the worst season of the show. It is not enjoyable and is pretty disappointing because both the Camelot and Underworld arcs could have worked with the right writing and tweaking stuff around a bit, and not having Korra go to heaven. But anyway, these are just my thoughts. So, I also understand if you like Season 5 more than I would see you liking Season 4 because of ideas. While Season 5 is good ideas, bad execution, I think Season 4 is bad ideas, bad execution. So, that's why I think Season 4 is worth it. I think it's very low possibility it could work. Season 5, I think they both plots could have worked. They were just done in completely the wrong way. And I really do think that, well, this season has been a rollercoaster. And sorry this video took so long. A bit come up with the laptop and all that, so that's why. But next time we get to Season 6, the final season of Once Upon a Time. Now, if you excuse me, I've got to watch the Umbrella Academy Season 4. I hope that's better than this.